Okay, hello. So my first try at Pachushka, 20 slides, 20 seconds each. Thanks, first of all, to Jeremy, Noah, Lev, and so forth. What I'll do is try to stay true to the genre and give you something like a portfolio of one of my recent projects. I'm going to approach the issue of temporality, so my title is The Time of Codework, and I'm going to approach the problem of temporality in terms of liveness, transmutability, and degeneration. And what I'm going to walk you through is a transition from my earlier thinking about spatiality to temporality, and then introduce you to some of my ideas about unframed media, and specifically literary uses of computational media that move beyond screen-based environments. So I'm particularly interested in the metaphoricity of the platform studies project, and I've been long interested in metaphors of spatiality, thinking about code in terms of that tower, actually, that Ian showed us earlier, thinking about code and programming languages in terms of underlying systematics, thinking about it in terms of geology, and I'm wondering in general what sense we can trace computing operations down to a foundation, bottom, or core, whether there is a correlation between spatial metaphors of surface and depth and machinic architecture, why we have that particular cultural imaginary of code, and to what artistic use that cultural imaginary of code has been put. So I'm very interested in the extent to which new media artists have been using attention between surface and depth, and have worked with layering, and have worked to symbolically lay bare the conditions of production. What I've found is that artists treat issues of foreground and background to be fundamentally unstable, and that would be the case for Ted Warnell and also John Cayley, who I take to be paradigmatic. John Cayley's Overboard performs continually evolving mutations of a verse passage from Bradford's On Plymouth Plantation. It's algorithmically generated text. It's what he calls a kinetic language painting, characterized by its operative performance. And what we see is, of course, text treated as computational process rather than object. So to shift from spatiality into temporality, I can use John Cayley, again, someone who I take to be a new media artist, I take to be paradigmatic. And what Cayley calls for implicitly and explicitly is a materiality of text that would embrace temporality. So what he's very interested in are the different states that text, in which text appears, physical, artifactual, forensic, and he wants us to regard temporality as an integral property of all aspects of signification, right? So I've sort of violated the rule by putting up text for one of these slides, but nonetheless, this is a moment in which you can see John thinking about issues of transmutability. Okay, so a series of projects that will, again, introduce you to these ideas: transmutability, liveness, and degeneration. This is a project called Still Standing, in which the stillness of the viewer's body causes the projected text to assemble as if attracted to a magnet. So on the face of it, it requires cognitive rather than physical engagement because you're only standing. But of course, standing still requires pretty rigorous physical activity. So this, in a sense, leads me to thinking about the body, issues of the body. My main thinker here is Brian Masumi. The line from him is, "Nothing is all and only what it is. The present smudges the past and the future." Masumi, alongside Mark Hansen, of course drawing on Bergson, theories of time, are interested in text, and again, by text we mean, computational text, that are dynamic processes subject to continuous variation, intensive movement, transpositionality, that can be thought in terms of events that are durational and that are recursive, right? Another project here, Eugenio Tesselli's Degeneration. This is a text that slowly becomes corrupted. It's a combination of HTML and PHP. Basically what it does is document stages of decay, and what it also makes visible or manifest is the effect of the viewer or the user on the text. So there's an interesting movement, I think, that would treat the aesthetics of decay that, of course, one would take back to Agrippa and other sort of combination media objects. What you see is an attempt to link technological obsolescence to capitalist modernity. Okay, this, of course, following from Nick's time-based text project will maybe seem redundant, but there's a recent project, a collaboration between Jody and Jaramil, which is a visualizing of typing, basically, of the composition of text. It's portable source code. This is a time-based text project that can be imported or included in any other software. It can be used in your email program. So what they're doing is making aspects of time, speed and duration, visible, right? And also what they're doing is, of course, participating in a long-term discourse on text as a durational process, or thinking about durational processes with respect to text, and also drawing correlations between literary art and computer programming. They make great use of, or citational use of, Joyce, Marinetti on Words on Freedom, Burroughs, cut-ups again following from Nick's commentary. Okay, so a transition to thinking about liveness would be Cayley's Imposition, which is a dynamic networked performance of his kinetic projects, of his transliteral art. So this marks the shift from single to multiple screens, which I want to trace out in my work on unframed media. So you can see in this project we're shifting away from the single screen, the projected screen, to the user's laptops. And what John gives us, or John Cayley gives us, is an interplay between synchronicity and asynchronicity, and he introduces the crowd. So these are aspects of a few other projects I'll map out for you. Giselle Biegelman's Code Up, composed and processing, about which we'll hear, no doubt, and in a sense works with Antonioni as a point of departure, working with the mutability of image and code, user participation with handheld devices, marks this project as, in a way, paradigmatic for recombinant and participatory culture. So with the transition from desktops to handhelds, which is what I want to map out, one could go back to Vannevar Bush, if you pardon the reference, and what I take to be important about that piece on the memics is not the memics itself, but Vannevar Bush's vision of the worker mobile in his office, freed from his desk, able to walk around. So just quickly a few other projects. Clickscape 98, what I take to be important about this, which is I think one of the first SMS art projects, is the emphasis on liveness, on synchronicity, and on telepresence of remote participants. What Rafael Lozano Hemmer's project Repositioning makes clear is there's a certain amount of risk and uncertainty and fear inherent in any improvisational project, and this literalizes it, and it also, oh, I tried so hard. I really did. Look at all these projects. Oh, it's a hard genre. I practiced, and okay, so anyway, we'll just fast forward to the end. And what I'm sort of interested in is the extent to which now with SMS, with handheld media projects, we're shifting from proprietary to social environments, and I leave you with the image of the iPod Linux and invite you to imagine what artists are going to be able to do once we can get access, let's say, with Google Android, and we're no longer working with the standards, essentially. Oh. It's hard.